I happened to watch the movie Sookshmadarshini a couple of days ago, and oh my god, I cannot get it out of my head even now. It's not the most brilliant movie out there, but there is something about it that stays with you, creeping into your thoughts when you least expect it. Before we move ahead, let me tell you that there are going to be spoiler alerts all throughout the video. So if you haven't watched the movie, please do that and then come back to dissect the movie with me. So, Sookshmadarshini is one movie that entirely belongs to Nazria Nazi. She completely carries it on her shoulders, and while it's not a masterpiece or anything, her character and the genre that is being addressed in the movie both are refreshingly different from the usual male dominated investigative roles that we see in Malayalam cinema. It's Nazria's character's attention to detail, her sharp inference skills, and her sheer grit that drive the resolution of this mysterious murder story. This movie makes use of the false protagonist technique. As in, in this movie, Basil is portrayed as a very mysterious, scheming, and downright creepy character. But the real fact is that the villain is lurking in the background. Basil, who's usually cast in cute and adorable roles, had to probably channel his inner psycho for this movie from the very first scene. Honestly, he gave me major Shami vibes. Remember the cat scene in the beginning? Feeding it and then hitting the cat with a stone, killing a salamander, and cooking it, grilling it for his neighbors, claiming it's beef. There is a certain sinister joy that he finds in hurting innocent animals and probably human beings too. Even in his bakery, if you observe towards the end of the movie, there's a scene where they use water from the wash area to make juices. Honestly, the psycho streak seems to be running in the family. Amachi's plan to kill her daughter for bringing dishonor to the family is just bone chilling. Honor killings are not new in cinema, but a mother behind the crime and being the mastermind of this, that's just very hard to digest. Basil is just Amachi's puppet, executing her plan alongside his uncle and cousin, who, by the way, seemed very inspired by the Breaking Bad series, using aqua regia to dispose of the body and all that. Now, Amachi's character is very dominant and strong willed. If you examine her past, she has raised two kids without a husband. She's worked for the railways, and she probably managed the bakery business until Basil's character took it over. But let's also not forget her narcissism. Imagine making your own face the logo of your bakery brand. Come to think of it, the theme of honor killing is subtly foreshadowed throughout the movie. Remember the cat feeding scene I was just describing a while ago? Basil feeding the cat and then hitting it with a stone? That mirrors exactly what happened to his sister Diana. So she was raised by the family and she grew up in the family and then she was just discarded when pride took over. So in the movie, Amachi is mainly shown as having a poker face, barely reacting to conversations, and just being a fly on the wall throughout the movie. In the scene when Azria visits their house and she wakes up to have medicines, there's a violin BGM played to evoke sympathy, as though she's a poor widow having Alzheimer's and her son is completely taking care of her while managing the home bakery and all that. Even in the scene where the neighbors are discussing the family on the WhatsApp group, Basil is referred to as somebody having a kuttithamulla chiri, and Nazria says that Amachi has so much grace on her face, just like her name. And so it's only when Nazria observes how she switches off the night lamp on her own, remembers to remove her glasses from her face before sleeping, that, it strikes her that this lady is actually independent and in no way an Alzheimer's patient. She also notices how Ammachi removes her slippers before entering the house, switches off the pressure cooker before the fifth whistle daily, and how she's quick to take the clothes off the line before it starts raining. So that's basically alertness that you don't expect of an Alzheimer's patient. Nazria's character is a walking, talking microscope. From the beginning, her sharp observations stand out. Like, for example, she notices a spelling error in her name from a distance and asks her friend to fix it. Later, she understands that her husband used an induction cooker to boil the milk and not a stove from the frothy layer that formed under the utensil. And remember how she found her nose ring in the sink while multitasking on the WhatsApp voice notes. But I wonder if she noticed that in the first scene, her work experience wasn't changed to 4 years even after she insisted. I mean, in brackets, it was written 4 years, but the year was still showing 2020 to 2022, which is 2 years. All in all, her character is very interesting and is persistently pursuing thrilling situations, being heroic in the end by defeating the bad guys. I mean, it's not even the bad guys. The movie is basically a war between one strong willed good woman and another strong willed evil woman. Unlike movies like Pudya Niyamam, where a woman was completely guided by her husband for carrying out a secret operation, this movie is a huge shout out to women and it completely spotlights their skills and how they get to the bottom of things. Basil's dialogues in the movie are full of subtle foreshadowing if you observe. For instance, there is a scene where he tells Steffi that FBക്ക് നന്നായിട്ട് അറിയാം ആർക്ക് ആരെയാണ് സജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്നുള്ളത്. So he's basically hinting at Steffi being the perfect scapegoat for him to execute this plan. Because according to him, Steffi is a single mother, she's a tenant, she's got no family, and she's not a crucial part of the girl gang. It's also interesting to note how he tells his neighbors that എല്ലാം ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് കളിയാണല്ലോ when they say that his entry into the community was discussed on the WhatsApp group. And here he's subtly referring to his murder plan with his family. Also, in the scene where Nazriya's character's husband is discussing his restaurant plan with Basil, Basil says, എല്ലാ കാര്യത്തിനും ഒരു പ്ലാനിങ് വേണം ആൻഡ് പ്ലാനിങ് അല്ലേ എല്ലാം. So we tend to assume that he is the mastermind behind this, so much that we think he adds the sedation to the juice in the scene where he's shown blending the juice. Though they don't actually show that he is adding it, they only show him powdering the pills, and then later we get to know that Amachi was the one who added the sedation to Steffi's juice. Amachi is pretty sharp for her age, as she even instructs Manuel to cut the karivepu off so that Nastria stops taking curry leaves from her compound so she can put an end to her socializing efforts. One thing that I kept wondering was about the voice note that was sent by Diana to Nazria after her death when the phone was with Basil the whole time. I believe Basil must have taken a saved audio from the phone and sent it. It was probably a generic response, something that she had sent to somebody else before, and Manuel probably just went one step forward, knowing very well that he was talking to Miss Doubtfire, Nazria, and wanted to add some authenticity to the conversation before she starts doubting about Diana's missing. Another thing I couldn't help but think of how the two movies I watched last week had an LGBT angle to its twist. One was Bhool Bhulaiya 3, which basically saw a father eliminating his trans child, and the other one, which is this one, it reveals a mother plotting to get her daughter killed over a lesbian relationship. In both cases, the siblings were a part of the plan and they also wanted to get rid of the person in question. The funny thing about this is we couldn't even guess this LGBT angle till the end. And it was only after this came to light that Diana's short conversation with Nazria made sense, where she says that you can live very peacefully in NZ, which meant people wouldn't judge you for who you are, unlike in India. I also then understood why the land selling scene was shown, because later, when Nazria stalks Aditi, Diana's partner, on Instagram, she gets to know that they are adopting a daughter and they want to settle down in New Zealand. So, probably Diana wanted to sell the land in her name for some money. Overall, this movie is worth a watch, or maybe even two, because a lot of revelations hit you when you watch it a second time. Like how Basil's family's Kudumba Mahima is hinted among the neighborhood through the WhatsApp colony group, and how Basil keeps stressing in his dialogues that Amachi means the world to him, saying things like Amachi Ananikellam. And that's 100% true, because this whole movie was about pleasing his Amachi's homophobic ego. The movie comes full circle in the last scene where they show that the dent on Nasriya's car was caused by Basil, a precursor of how life is going to throw a few challenging situations at her. All of it caused by this family's Konacha plan, as they call it. I also love the different ways in which we can interpret the movie's title. So, Sookshmadarshini in Malayalam means microscope, and Nazriya's eye is exactly that, and that is the whole reason why they keep zooming into her eye every time she switches on her observatory mode. Moreover, since her name is Priya Darshini, and she's somebody who carefully or വളരെ സൂക്ഷ്മതയോടെ observes details, that could be the motive for naming the movie. And like I mentioned, the mother in Sookshmadarshini is a revelation that comes only at the end, which could mean that the mother was being observed, or simply hint that she is the villain by putting a circle over the mother in Sookshmadarshini in the title card. So, if you happen to watch the movie, do let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.